All right, appreciate everyone for joining us for Coach Franklin's weekly press conference. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open up for questions.
Like always, appreciate you guys coming to cover Penn State football. Obviously, the first thing is appreciate the contributions that Coach Yurcich made here. Obviously, we made a tough decision that we feel like was in the best interest of the program moving forward. I know there's going to be some questions, and I'll answer some questions, but obviously would like to spend as much time talking about our opponent this week as possible. A couple other things, kind of when you review the Michigan game, turnover battle, we lost. Explosive play battle, we lost. The third down battle, we lost. Sack, we won. Drive start battle, we lost. And then the penalties, we won. Sack battle, it was essentially a tie, but from a yardage standpoint, we won. Getting into our opponent with Rutgers and Coach Schiano, obviously got a ton of respect for him and what he's done throughout his career, and specifically at Rutgers. His background as a defensive guy, in the NFL as well as in college, they do a really good job, and he's done it that way for a long time. If you look at the hire that they made with hiring Kirk Ciarrocca, obviously we have familiarity with Kirk. Got a ton of respect for him. I think it's been a really good hire for them, and the complementary style of football that they want to play. Obviously, Greg's very involved with special teams. Essentially, he's always run the special teams. The way they play defense, and Kirk's been a really good hire. Kirk's on that staff. Dave Brock, who's also a good friend of mine. Dave was my receivers coach at K-State. Really good ball coaches, that both had been at Rutgers before, and are doing a good job for them. Guys that we're impressed with is their running back, Kyle Monangai, I hope I said that right. Young man from New Jersey. Physical back, powerful back, is doing a really nice job in their system. And then their tight end, Johnny Langan, who seems like he's been playing there forever, does a lot of different things for him and does it well. Defensively, Coach Harris Samayak has done a really good job. It's year 2 for him, and their numbers have dramatically increased, really kind of across the board. Playing really good defense. They make you earn everything. They do a great job of limiting explosive plays, both in the run and pass. Their numbers are a little bit better in the pass, but really in both areas they're playing well. We've been impressed with number 17, Deion Jennings. Cornerback number 16, Max Melton. It's kind of a legendary family there at Rutgers. And we think he's playing really well, and you can tell they've changed some things defensively based on the confidence that they have in their corners, including number 7, Robert Longerbeam. And then their defensive end, Aaron Lewis, who we recruited, went to Michigan, ended up transferring back to Rutgers, who's from New Jersey. Defensive ends playing well for them. And then their linebacker number 1, Mohamed Toure. Toure's another one of those kind of legendary families in New Jersey. Special teams kind of already talked about, and Coach Schiano, that they got a tremendous history there on the special teams, and specifically blocking kicks. Kick returner number 8, Rashad Rochelle, and then their punter, number 95, Flynn Appleby's, doing a really good job, and they've done a great job of recruiting and developing punters as well. So that's kind of my preliminary summary of Rutgers. Open up to questions.
Let's go to Rich Garcella and then Mike Gross. You're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Rich. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. James, in response to my question Saturday about Drew, you said that there weren't enough easy passes being called to get him into a rhythm. So as the head coach, do you ask for more easy passes, get more on Saturday? And if you didn't, why didn't you ask for more easy passes called?
Yeah. As you can imagine, I have conversations about all the things that I have concerns about, and more so than I speak in the press conferences. And I think you guys have heard me come in and talk, whether it's openers, whether it's third down, whether it's starting fast. All those things are things that we've had lengthy discussions about and had a plan for. But a lot of times when we got to the games, either we did not call the games that way, or we did not execute the games the way we intended them to. So, yeah, those things were asked for.
Let's go to Mike Gross and then Neo Riddell.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Good, thanks. Just want to ask about the mechanics of of how you're going to do play calling and game planning on offense now. Will Ty and JaJuan, will they be upstairs or on the sidelines? And what will your role in play calling and or game planning increase, decrease, stay the same?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think the first thing is both JaJuan and Ty already had the titles, so that made sense. They both had the co-coordinator titles. So those two guys will be handling the game planning as well as the offensive staff. And that's really literally what I just walked out of with those guys. And they're doing a really good job right now. I've been pleased. I think we're a little bit more collaborative right now than what we've been here recently. And I think it's been good. It's been good. So I literally just walked out of there. When I get done from here, I'll go back in there. And I would say that my presence is similar to what it's been in the past over my 13 years as a head coach. In terms of play calling, we're going to work that kind of out throughout this week and on game day, but they'll both have a role in play calling.
Let's go to Neo Riddell and then Donnie Collins.
Hey, James. I'm wondering, was this your decision, and was Pat Kraft involved?
Yeah, this was my decision, but obviously, I don't do anything in a silo. I run things up the ladder and have conversations, but this was my decision.
Let's go to Donnie Collins and then Johnny McGonigal.
How you doing, James?
Good. How are you, Donnie?
Doing well. Who do you hope steps up into the role that Mike had coaching the quarterbacks, and how do you hope Drew and Bo respond to the decision and the move here?
Yeah, as you can imagine, Danny's been very involved. I missed a part of the question, the previous question. I apologize, Donnie. Yeah, so the upstairs and sideline will stay the same. Ty will be upstairs. JaJuan will be on the sideline. That won't change. To your question, Danny is involved with the quarterbacks. I'm going to make sure that I'm in every single one of the quarterback meetings with Danny. And then we're also, it allows us to get somebody else on the headsets as well in terms of bumping somebody up into that full-time role or headset role or whatever it may be, another voice. So we're still kind of working through that. We'll probably make that decision today. But in terms of the quarterbacks, Danny O'Brien and myself.
Let's go to Johnny McGonigal and then Mark Wogenrich.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Johnny. How are you?
Good. James, we know that Drew built a close relationship with Mike, starting when he was a recruit. How did he take the news, and how involved, if at all, will he be in an upcoming OC search?
Well, I guess the first thing is these are tough decisions, right? And what makes it even tougher is it's hard to keep things quiet I think we did a pretty good job of it, but it's hard to keep things quiet. And not because we're trying to hide information from you guys, but I'm just trying to be respectful of the process. I'm trying to be respectful of Mike and his family. I'm trying to be respectful of our quarterbacks. I'm trying to be respectful of the team. Then I want to call all of the quarterbacks' families so they're hearing it from me and explain kind of how we got here. Same thing in recruiting. So there's just a lot of moving parts that you're trying to keep as quiet as you possibly can so people are hearing it from you, not reading it on social media. But with Drew, I met with all of the quarterbacks first. They were the first to know. Met with them before the team meeting. Then I addressed it with the team. Then the plan was for them to call their parents after practice and let them know. And then after practice, I was going to call them and talk through any questions or concerns that they had. And that plan went according to plan, except for while we were at practice, it leaked out, and then the parents found out before I was able to get to them. But besides that, the players heard, the quarterbacks heard from me, the players heard from me. It's something that we don't take lightly. These are tough decisions that have to be made. They affect a lot of people. I want to be super respectful of that. But I also have a responsibility to everybody in that locker room and everybody in the Lash building and fans and everybody else, graduates, alumni, lettermen. So the quarterbacks, I think the discussion was good. Met with them before practice, like I mentioned. Then I met with them right after practice ended to see if that had any more questions or concerns. And again, tough conversations, tough decisions, but I think handled as well as you can under tough circumstances. In terms of being involved in the hiring process, no, but in terms of are they a part of that decision? Yes. In terms of who I'm bringing in, why I'm bringing them in, do they fit the person that I'm bringing in, the person I'm bringing in, do they fit with them? Does everybody understand what they're signing up for? All those things, yes. And then just like this decision, I'd also like them to be the first to know. So as hard as you guys will be trying to get the information, I'll be trying to keep the information quiet. Again, not because I don't want you guys to have the information, but I'd like for my quarterbacks and my team to hear it first rather than it being on social media. I'm just trying to be as respectful of the process of everybody as possible. And then on top of that, and I've been through this myself, sometimes the names getting out there hurts in your chances of actually hiring them. Even with head coach positions. A lot of times if it's out there and it's public, there's guys that end up turning the jobs down because they can't afford for the process to play out. It's going to cause too many problems where they are to cause issues. So that's the other reason why you try to keep it quiet as much as you possibly can. So as many of these possibilities stay on the table as long as possible.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich and then Frank Bodani.
Hi, James. In the past, you've referenced hearing the Fire Franklin comments during that 2016 Minnesota game. What did you hear leaving the Beaver Stadium, the field Saturday, and what kind of impact did it have?
Yeah, I think when I talked about in the past in 2016, as you guys know, we came here at a tough time and a challenging time. I mean, I think that was like literally our first year off of the sanctions and back to full scholarships. So that was a different time. I'm much more, is the word, calloused at this stage of my career, thicker skin between you guys and my wife. That I don't really get into those types of things. I control the things that I can control, and not those other things.
Let's go to Frank Bodani and then Corey Geiger.
Hey, good afternoon, James. Thanks for your time.
You as well.
Going off Mark's question, there's a purpose behind, I guess, people's emotions. How do you reassure fans that things are going to get better the way that they expect them to? And maybe a second part is when you're making this change, what exactly are you looking for in your new OC that maybe you did not have at this present time?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we need to play well, and we need to play well against our toughest opponents. That's the reality of it. We embrace that. That's why you come to a place like Penn State as a coach. That's why you come to a place like Penn State as a player, and we understand what comes with that. The positives and the challenges. You embrace it, or you don't come to a place like Penn State. In terms of what I'm looking for on offense is, again, back to that point. Somebody that's going to put us in the best position to play our best football when it's needed most, and against the best competition.
Our last question from Zoom is Corey Geiger.
Hi, James.
Hey, Corey.
If I were to suggest that a large portion of these problems stem from your wide receiver situation, that your situation at wide receiver just isn't good enough, and that creates lots of other problems on offense. Am I off base there? Is that mostly correct, partly correct, completely incorrect?
Yeah, I think, we've talked about in the offseason, the development of that position, the depth at that position, trying to find a number 3 before we ended up losing Trey, then lose Trey, and now it's back to kind of figuring out who the number 2 is. There's a little bit that kind of goes around to a lot of different groups, but yeah, we've talked about that position and the importance of the development, the importance of the recruitment, the importance of the playmaking on a consistent basis. But no, I would not describe it the way you just described it.
Please raise your hand and we'll take a mic to you. We'll start with Mark on the right.
Hey, James, thanks for your time.
Hey, Mark.
Could you explain the timing of this decision? Because you've made changes in the past, but I think generally they were after the season. And from your perspective as a head coach, how difficult is it to have to make these sorts of decisions, especially during a season?
Yeah, very difficult. Very difficult from a personal perspective, very difficult from a professional perspective. And then in terms of the timing, I just think, for most people and most situations, if you've gotten to the point where you feel like that's what you're going to do, I'm not great at faking it. I want to be as transparent and as upfront as I possibly can be. So when you get to the point where you feel like that's the right decision, then I think you make it. And I also, part of that also is the belief of the rest of the staff and the guys, in the Lash building and in the locker room. But when you feel like that's the decision, in my opinion, you don't delay the decision as long as you feel like you have some internal options that can do it. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Audrey?
James,
Hey, Audrey.
how you doing?
Good.
This will be your 6th offensive coordinator hire here. Obviously, 2 guys left for head coaching jobs. The others did not. Why do you feel like you guys have been continuously searching for answers there?
Again, I wouldn't necessarily describe it the way you did. I think if you look at the nature of college football, there's a ton of turnover. Why? Some for positive reasons. You mentioned 2 for head coaching opportunities, which is awesome, which is what you want. In terms of the other end of the spectrum, this is a place that's got very, very high expectations and standards, and we have to make sure that each area, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's academics, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, for us to go where we want to go and play at the very, very highest level, we need each one of those units producing on a very, very high level consistently for us to go where we want to go. And if they are, guys get opportunities to move elsewhere for head coaching opportunities. And if they aren't, then decisions need to be made. So for one reason or another, you're going to have turnover in college football.
Over here on the left, Allie.
Hey, Allie.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Ty and JaJuan are both widely regarded as two of your best recruiters, great culture guys, good fit in the program, a lot of respect for from people around your staff. What do you think they bring as a collective unit, and why should they be the pair of them be some people that people have faith in going forward?
Well, I think it's what you just mentioned, right? At the end of the day, good people that are widely respected, that are fiercely loyal, and also Penn State is very important to both of them. I mean, JaJuan's been here now 6 years. Ty is obviously a letterman and a grad. Ty's also called plays before. JaJuan played quarterback, not only in college but also in the NFL. Has that background as well. Both have recruited and developed positions that are two of our better positions. So really kind of all those things. I know what I'm going to get from them. I know how collaborative they're going to be with our staff. And I also think they're widely respected by the players. And I think that's an important part of this as well. So, again, I think they're working really good. We started early this morning, and I literally just walked out of there to come over here. And I'll go back in there, but those guys are doing a good job. And I think Rutgers is really good on defense. But I think we'll have a good plan that will put our guys in the best position to be successful.
In the middle, John.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Obviously, you guys have a regular season to play out, but what is the timeline you're looking at for making the offensive coordinator hire, and what are the important factors in that timeline?
Yeah, so sooner rather than later, right? But it's hard. Hiring someone is like a full-time job. So can't really have two full-time jobs right now. So the most important thing is for us to play well this week and finish the season the right way. And then during that process, be working through kind of narrowing down a list. I already have a list. It's narrowing it down. It's running all the numbers. It's seeing if people are interested. And then trying to find a way to get that turned over as soon as we possibly can through maybe some Zoom calls, some in-person interviews. And then in a perfect world, I think you'd like, if you could, to have a situation like we did with Manny, where we hired him, had him here for the bowl game. I think we've done that at other times as well. So now they're here, they're around the guys, they see how we operate, they see how we meet, they get a feel for the culture, they're able to watch and evaluate the players and say, okay, here's areas where we're strong, here's areas where we need to maybe find some solutions. I think there's value in doing that if possible, but that's not always the case. With Manny, it just worked out where he was available and could be hired and was willing to come, and some people are still in positions that they need to finish out their seasons. So we'll see. It depends on which direction we go, who we hire, and kind of where they're at in their careers. Is it an NFL guy? Is it a college guy? Is it a guy who's currently going to be in a bowl game, or is it a guy who's out?
Over here on the left, Jared.
Hey, Coach Franklin.
Hey, Jared.
On Saturday, I think, and you answered a little bit of this earlier, but from the fans, obviously they were booing, throwing objects, and it looked almost like they'd lost their hope. What can you say to them now that can kind of give them hope for the future? And how important is that to the team that the fans are hopeful?
Yeah, I think, me saying something here is one thing. At the end of the day, it's about actions, and it's about production. It's about playing well. We have lost to two of the best teams in college football who also happen to be in the same side of our conference. We understand that. We recognize that. So I get it. So me sitting here saying things is fine, but I think at the end of the day, it's about actions. I also believe we're better positioned now, like I've talked to you guys about before, than ever before, based on the alignment that I think we have for the first time. I think I said that to you guys this summer, and I think that is probably the reason I'm as hopeful and as excited as I've ever been. And I've also stated that before. But it's not like these people get in these positions and 6 months later snap their fingers and things are fixed or moving. It takes time. It takes time, and I think we're in a position to do that.
In the middle, Mike.
Hi, James.
Hey, Mike.
The last 4 years, you're 1-7 against those big two. I asked Drew this, and everyone told me to ask you. How do you close that gap, and how much is that related to your decision with Mike?
Yeah, that was a big part of that decision. At some point during this press conference, I'd love to get just a few questions about Rutgers, but I'll finish this question. Yeah, that was a big part of that decision. And it's everything. It's kind of what I just talked about. Every unit needs to be operating at the very highest level. That is recruiting, that is development, that is offense, that is defense, that is special teams. And we've had times where we've done that, but we've also had times where we've been really strong in certain areas and not strong enough in others. So that's how you do it, and that was a part of that decision. Yes.
In the back, T. Frank.
Hey, James.
Hey, T. Rutgers?
What's that?
Rutgers?
I'll tailor the question for you to include Rutgers.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you feel good about the plan you're developing for Rutgers. And, for offense and defense, there's creating the plan, then there's executing the plan. So do you feel that the creation of the plan and the implementation both needed to change? And do you think going forward you'll have a better plan of attack, literally, from your offense?
Yes. Yes, I felt like both of those things needed to change. How we came up with the plan, the implementation of the plan, all those things, for sure. The execution of the plan. Obviously, you don't make the type of decision I made without feeling that way.
We got time for two more questions. We'll go Tyler and then Ben.
Hi, James.
Hi.
Against Rutgers, what would you like to see Drew Allar look like at the quarterback position here, down the final stretch, I suppose, now with a new offensive coordinator? And when it comes to Drew, I know you addressed speaking to him and Bo, but Drew was offered by Mike and recruited by Mike, and I know Bo's commitment predated Mike Yurcich, and I'm just curious, with his confidence level moving forward, how do you need to make sure that you handle Drew Allar the rest of the season?
Yeah, again, I had really good conversations with them. Had really good conversations with their families, and I feel good about that. I mean, obviously, we'd love to finish on a really, really high note this year as a team, and then specifically as an offense, and then at the quarterback position. There's no doubt about it. So I feel good about that moving forward in terms of the relationships in the building. Again, that doesn't say anything about those other relationships. Those were important as well. But I feel good about the relationships we have in our building, and playing well to end the season, and then obviously making sure that the hire complements what we have in the building and what we have in the locker room.
Last question, Ben.
Hey, James. Excuse me. What's the take-home lesson for you in all of this?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is understanding kind of what we just talked about, right? That for us to win the way we want to win at the very highest level, every single unit needs to be producing and working at the highest level year-round, 365 days a year. And there's been a lot of hurdles and battles to overcome to get there, since we arrived on campus, to be honest with you. And the reality is we can't afford not to be thriving in every single one of those areas to be able to beat the people that we need to beat on a consistent basis. So for us, the most important thing we can do outside of all the things that we've already talked about is get the right people into the building, and that is staff, and that is players. And then be able to give them all the support that they need to be successful on a consistent basis. But the most important thing you do is we're in a people business. We got to get the right people at Penn State that believe in Penn State and what we can do and where we can go, and then give them all the resources and support that they need to produce at the very, very highest level.